In this example, I'm going to prepare and export a 6x6 dungeon tile model for printing on the Elegoo Saturn II 8K. When the model first loads, it appears very small. That's because it's defined in units rather than real-world size. The advantage of this is that you can scale it up to any size without complicated calculations. Just multiply desired size in millimeters by 100. For example, if you want each square on the tile to measure exactly 1 inch or 25.4 millimeters, set the scale to 2540. For 1 1/8 inches or 28 millimeters, set it to 2800. For 1 1/4 inches or 32 millimeters, set it to 3200, and so on, depending on the scale you want. After scaling, the tile becomes quite large. To make printing easier, I cut it in half and print each piece separately, then glue them together later with superglue. The ground plane in the slicer serves as the cutting plane. I lower the model until its midpoint aligns with the ground plane, then use the scissors tool to cut it into 2 pieces. Now, positioning is important. I always print models at an angle, never parallel to the build plate. Once I'm satisfied with the positioning and angles, I raise the pieces 5 millimeters above the build plate and begin adding supports. In this case, I want supports on the outer surface of the tile, not on the cut side. The cut needs to stay perfectly straight for a clean connection later. Even if you add enough supports, suction during printing can sometimes warp the supported side. I start with the heaviest supports using a tip size of 0.5 millimeters. The very first supports are the thickest ones. I really want to make sure that they will be printed. I placed 3 supports in that corner, just in case 1 or 2 of them fail. After that, I switch to 0.4 millimeter tips and continue supporting the rest of the model. To quickly fill gaps with supports, hold Shift and left-click at the last spot where you want a support placed. This automatically fills the space between with evenly distributed supports. I always make sure the tips touch the edges of the model, so the edge can't turn into island. You can add more supports manually, or you can adjust the spacing in the support settings. I usually add quite a lot, because too few supports can cause warping from suction forces during the print. I repeat this process on every side of the model. For the bottom part, there's a very handy method. Go to the Manual tab and click Start Support Projection. Then select the faces you want to support, they'll turn yellow, click Preview Supports, and adjust the numbers until you're happy with the density. For this piece, I used grid placement. Once I have the basic supports in place, I move to the Islands tab. I set accuracy to normal and let the slicer automatically find unsupported islands. For these, I use a 0.3 millimeter tip and let the software place the supports. Then I switch accuracy to detailed and finish off the smaller islands. If the islands are especially delicate, you can use a 0.2 millimeter tip if your printer can handle it. After that, I double-check everything, adjust supports if needed, and add bracing by pressing the B key. I always print with a raft, but I reduce its scale to the minimum. I use the same workflow for the second half of the tile, except this time I used random support placement on the bottom instead of a grid. Now it's time to export. I always enable anti-aliasing and sharpen details and keep the gray offset set to 0. Sometimes you'll notice the slicer creates diagonal lines across the model. These aren't just visual glitches, they will actually print. They're caused by the raft type. To fix this, simply change the raft type and re-export. If you've installed UV Tools and linked it to Lychee Slicer in its settings, you can click Open in UV Tools button. After the file loads, click Detect and let it scan for issues. On the left-hand side, you'll see a list of islands, resin traps, and suction cups. Start with the islands. Select the first one, hold Shift, and select the last one to highlight them all. Right-click and choose Remove Islands. I don't even check them, I just delete all of them. The first set is not important, but the ones that show up after deleting those are worth checking. Next, deal with the resin traps. These are small pockets with uncured resin. Again, select them all, right-click, and choose Fill/Solidify Resin Traps. In this model, there were no suction cup issues, so we're fine. Finally, press Ctrl+S to save. The model is now fully prepared, supported, checked, and ready to print without issues.